welcome to Random Fandom Chats. I'm Tandra.
I'm Dee Dee.
And this is Annabeth. And here we talk about pretty much anything and everything fandom related, books, comics, movies, TV shows. And today we're going to be talking about our favorite book characters.
Mm-hmm. Now, the first one on this list will probably come as not much as a surprise to anybody, but Harry Potter would be definitely at the top of our list of favorite book characters.
Now, none of these are in any particular order because, as we've stated on some other top 10s, is we have trouble ranking them.
Mm-hmm. Because these are our favorites, but it's hard to pick who's our favorite of our favorites.
Right. But Harry Potter is definitely one that comes to mind right away.
Mm-hmm.
And so, why is he one of our favorites?
Well, for me personally, I very much admire Harry's, first of all, his good heart, his selflessness, his bravery, and the fact that for a main protagonist, he's actually pretty flawed. One thing that I know a lot of writers get wrong and seem to fall into is making their main characters virtually perfect, and when those in fandom will probably call them Mary Sues or Gary Stews, depending on the gender. But Harry definitely has some very notable downfalls and, not so great qualities, and that to me actually makes him more of a favorite. It makes him seem more human.
Right. Because even though he has flaws, they don't outweigh his good qualities. Mm-hmm. And like you say, it makes him more human. It makes him...
And it gives him extra layers. It gives him more of a real person dynamic.
He's somebody anybody can relate to.
Exactly.
As a child reading the books, you could dream that you could have been Harry Potter.
Mm-hmm, that you were going to be special and discover this magical world that you had no idea existed.
Right. So just the thought that any ordinary, regular person could rise to that kind of greatness.
Be extraordinary is always something that people will like. One thing that I notice a lot of people don't like about Harry is his willingness to rely on others and ask others for help in a lot of sense. And I don't really know why people dislike that about him.
I think that's a strength.
Exactly. Again, another thing that a lot of writers do with their main protagonists is they make them be the sole hero of the story or one of the only heroes, and they have to do everything and they're always in the spotlight. Whereas Harry, he recognizes that he could not have done half the things he did without the help of others and without especially the help from his friends, and he relies on his friends and he lets them know that they are important to his success and what he achieved within the books.
Right. Now, what's another favorite character that we had?
Another favorite character on the list would be Annabeth Chase from the Percy Jackson series by Riordan. Why would you put her on the list, you think?
Well, honestly, she's just kind of fun. She's very strong. She's very she take charge. She,
again, with
bickers with Percy. Yeah, she's very brave. She's very intelligent.
Mm-hmm. All admirable qualities.
Yeah, but she's artistic as well because she wants to do, architecture. Mm-hmm. And so she's just somebody, Athena was kind of one of my favorite Greek gods anyway. And to have her be, Annabeth's mother is kind of cool, and and that she brings out some of the best qualities that Athena had.
Mm-hmm. And also some not great ones. She's extremely stubborn and definitely has a bit of a chip on her shoulder.
Yeah,
can get really snippy with you for almost no apparent reason sometimes.
Yeah,
but again, those flaws make her more human, and to me make her more likable.
Yeah, so she's definitely, and of course I also like her too because of her relationship with Percy and how much they care about each other and all that, but just how she pulls him along to make him the best he can be as well is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And even though he's the main person in the story, sort of, in some ways she almost overshadows him in a way.
In some respects, I can see that.
Or
she has a bit more of a definable personality than Percy does.
In some ways, but like I said, she kind of raises him up. Mm-hmm. So she kind of makes him, the better hero of the story because she's there and because she can do that. So that makes it kind of cool too. Now, to kind of get away a little bit from regular, what you would normally think of as fantasy and sci-fi, we also have a set of stories that are set in the future, but they're mostly detective stories.
They're crime novels, but they definitely have a sci-fi theme to them, and that is the In Death series by J.D. Robb, or rather Nora Roberts, writing under a pen name. And we actually have 3 characters from the series just because, well, we
They're just all
really
cool.
like them. We have the main character, Eve Dallas, who is a detective in New York, and I don't remember what year it's supposed to be, if they ever really say.
I think it's like 2050 something, maybe?
Something like that.
2060?
So, distant future. And then we also have the character Rourke, who, spoiler alert, is her husband, and her partner, Peabody.
Now, why do these characters, let's take them one at a time. Why is Eve one of your favorites?
Well, I really like Eve because she comes from an extremely rough background. We won't get too much into spoilers for any of you who are now hearing of this series and want to read it, but she discovers that she has some memories that speak of a very abusive past, and she just deals with it in, I think, a very admirable way, but also a very, well, at the risk of repeating myself, a very human way. She doesn't always deal with it in the best light, and sometimes she can let it, affect her personality, and she's a little bit more gruff sometimes and can be snippy, but in all, she's a good person who wants to do good things and make sure that things like that don't happen to others.
Well, and she definitely has a very good character and wants justice for any victims that are, in the stories, and she will work hard, almost to her own detriment, to find them and take care
Find
of them.
justice for people.
Right, and so she's just really cool. And plus, I just like her snippets. That
She's very funny, very witty.
she
I
is,
really
and she doesn't even mean to be sometimes, which is even kind of
She just has
cool.
that natural wit to her.
Right. Now, Peabody.
I love her because I love what she adds to this series. She's almost the exact opposite of Eve. Of course, they do have some similarities, wanting to find justice for the persecuted and whatnot. But she's almost the exact opposite. She came from an extremely loving home, very loving family. She is always joking around and trying to make Eve crack up and smile. She's very lighthearted in a lot of ways. And yeah, I just think that she brings a very, an interesting mix to the whole cast of the characters.
Yeah, nice dimension. And I love the whole interplay between her and Eve.
Oh yes, they can come up with some very humorous dialogue.
And actually, there's quite a few good characters in the series that are just fun in their own way. The series is worth reading for the characters, really. The stories can sometimes be kind of intense.
Yes, definitely for mature readers only.
Definitely. Now, Rourke. Why would he be on the list?
I would put him on the list just because he's such a fascinating character. Again, he comes from a very dark background, but he deals with it in a little bit different way than Eve does. He's a very controlled character. He definitely embodies that, CEO of a large corporation who's always in control of everything. Yet, he also has a very compassionate side to him. He understands people very well, and he cares about people a lot.
Yeah, he remembers, birthdays and anniversaries, and
he's very sentimental.
And he runs a huge company, but he cares about his employees.
He takes care of his employees.
And he's very loyal to Eve and everybody else. He does things like buy pizza for the whole squad when they're working hard on a case, and he just thinks about others a lot. But he's very, very gruff in a lot of ways. He's very intense.
Well, he came from a poor background, and he had to build up his company and his riches from nothing, pretty much. And you have to be a very tough character to do that.
Yeah, and he's almost every person's dream. He's extraordinarily rich. He's extraordinarily kind. Almost too perfect.
I would say that's his one flaw, is that he's almost too perfect.
Almost. I mean, he does have...
Oh, yeah, he definitely has his own baggage.
He definitely has his stuff there, but he's definitely a very interesting character, with some depth to him and layers. Now, also to kind of... another series that's also for mature audiences a little bit is by Robert A. Heinlein. And there's a couple of characters we listed, actually 3 different characters from his books that were some of our favorites, and they've actually been in several of his books. One of them is actually a non-human. It's a computer. Mycroft Holmes, or Holmes 4. They call him Mike. He's a sentient computer, and he's self-aware. And at the time this book was written, back in 1960, this was kind of an unusual concept, just a little bit. And
he wasn't touched on very much at that time period.
Not a whole lot. And what is done with him, and the kind of character he is, and what he brings to the story, I think, is very cool. He has a deep wish to understand humor, and he's, because that
He's a bit like Data from Star
he
Trek.
thinks that'll make him more human if he can understand humor and jokes and things. And along with him is Manuel Garcia Kelly Davis, who's basically a computer technician in the story.
So they're pretty much like best friends.
Yes, they are. They are very much best friends, and not too much of a spoiler here, but basically they band together along with some other people and help free Luna City, or Luna itself, not just Luna City, but all of Luna, which is actually a penal colony, sort of like what Australia would have been at one time. And the book kind of follows a little bit similar patterns to the American Revolution a little bit. But so it's a very interesting story. But those two characters show up in a few of the other stories. And that leads us into another character who is kind of important to Mike and to...
Because she was in the book as well, but she also starts in her own book, The Cat Who Walks Through Walls, and that is Gwen Hazel. I really wanted to put her on this list because I very much admire her as a character. She has a lot of humor to her. She's tough. She doesn't take any crap from anybody, even her own husband, who can be a little bit of a pain sometimes. And I just really admired her as a person. Now, why would you think you would want to put her on the list?
Well, yeah, she's extremely, once again, tough. We love tough female characters. We like ones that can stand up for themselves, who can take care of
take care of business.
Yeah, and she is actually in Moon is a Harsh Mistress, which is the first book that Manuel and Mike is in, but she's a child in that book, and even at that point, she's important character and helps
you
save
can see
people.
her potential for doing great
and then
things.
she's in a few other books throughout the series. The Rolling Stones, she's an old grandmother at that point. And then in The Cat Who Walks Through Walls, one of the things that's part of her thing is to kind of rescue Mike, the computer, and that's when she goes by Gwen. So she actually has a few different names and all, but she's just one of these characters who really do it. She and she's kind of mysterious in a way too, because like in the Cat Who Walks Through Walls especially,
you don't really know who she is at first.
You don't know much about her, and then you find out a little bit more, and then there's still a whole lot that's kind of mysterious.
Adds even more mystery.
And then you find out a little bit more, and then there's still, so there's a lot there. If Heinlein actually had not died, this is one of the last few books he had written. If he hadn't died, I think he probably would have expanded on these characters even more, which would have been really cool. Because he was really starting to bring all these characters back into a lot of different stories. So definitely, once again, for mature readers, but they are very, very good stories if you want to pick them up. Robert Heinlein is definitely a good choice, and those are some of our favorite characters from the novel. Then we kind of go back a little bit to the fantasy side of things.
We also have Hazel Levesque and Nico D'Angelo from the Percy Jackson stuff.
Now, we kind of put both of these guys on here because I kind of leaned a little bit more towards Hazel.
And I leaned a little bit more towards Nico, even though I love both of them a lot. Now, why did you want to put Hazel on the list?
Well, I just thought it was interesting how she dealt with being the daughter of Hades, but yet she still kind of kept her optimism up, sort of. I mean,
you don't see that very often in the sons and daughters of the underworld god.
Yeah, I mean, she doesn't also, in a way, because she's very worried about hurting people and having a lot of issues, but...
She keeps her compassion a lot more than I think some of her heritage tend to do.
She does, and I think as her character develops throughout the story, she's somebody that is kind of understated in a lot of ways. I mean, she comes from the 40s, like Nico had done.
He came from the 20s.
Or was it I thought it was the 40s, but I'm not sure, but they were both earlier on, and so they kind of carried on those personalities a little bit from those eras, and so they were kind of understated throughout the story, but then they were kind of really important.
Oh yeah, she's definitely very important to the overall story, but you're right, she's kind of understated in a lot of ways, and you don't really realize her great potential at first.
Right, and so I think that, and then that was kind of also the reason why you like Nico in some ways, with some of the same
I really liked Nico as a character, even though in the first series he was in the first Percy Jackson series, he was a little bit annoying. You really didn't like him in a lot of ways, but he grew up. He didn't really deal with being the son of Hades as well as we would have liked or hoped. But that's a very normal reaction. He is very angsty and whatnot.
He grows into his own person.
Yes, he does, and I like that. He does have a lot of character growth. And I also feel like, even though I personally did not really go through this phase as a teenager, I know a lot of teenagers do go through that very angsty, very dark phase. And I think representation for people like that is important as well as any other kind of mindset or phase, if you will. And I just felt like Nico was a decent character that certain people could relate to, and maybe he could inspire them to try and push past some of their problems and anxieties and whatnot.
Well, and also I think he's just an important character for people to read because he's an openly gay character.
Very much so.
Who has to deal with some of those emotions and things, which, I'm sure there are plenty of teenagers out there who have to deal with that. And to see that somebody can actually get through it and be okay
and accept themselves
and be all right and be accepted by others.
Especially since this is aimed at such a younger audience.
Right.
I feel that that's important.
So I think that's just an important character, if nothing else. Just from, the social standpoint of it, I think it's important. So he's kind of cool from that. Now, also back to the Harry Potter universe, because, we're kind of going to wrap up going back to Harry Potter since we start out with him. There's another character that you just really appreciate.
I really, really love Luna Lovegood. Again, kind of like Nico, I feel like she brings an important thing to the table of she's quirky, she's odd, she may even be just a little bit insane, but she's still really awesome and brave and loyal to her friends. And, she is this way and she doesn't care. She'll wear butterbeer cork earrings and wear specter specs and read the Quibbler upside down, and she doesn't care. She's true to herself and every weird aspect of her personality. And again, I think that's just a very important message to send to
that
kids.
You can be your own self.
Exactly.
And it's okay. Now, a lot of people had trouble kind of liking her, even spending much time with her at first or whatever. And that was kind of nice that Hermione would kind of treat her okay.
And Ginny.
And then eventually she became
very important.
Very important. Are you trying to CC?
And, she also dealt with being bullied very well, because they made it very apparent that she was pretty much an outcast even in her own house that was supposed to be very accepting of weirdness. And, a lot of people kind of shunned her or pushed her to the side. And she dealt with that very well. She was still a very kind person, and she kind of looked at bullies and said, you know what, it doesn't matter what you think. I'm going to be who I am, and that doesn't matter.
Yeah, so...
And again, I really appreciate her loyalty to her friends.
Well, and she actually kind of brings some wisdom to the stories every once in a while as well. Sometimes she'll say something that nobody else thought of and nobody else is looking at from that direction. And so, that's pretty cool. Okay, well, I think that was who we were able to come up with this time. Now, if you guys have any characters or some that we didn't think of or maybe some we don't know about, please leave us some comments.
Yeah, tell us who your favorite book characters are, or if you disagree with our list or like the people on our list, or if we turn you on to series that you haven't read before.
Yeah, that would be nice. All right, let's grab the box here and see what our next topic is going to be. Well, grab a few different ones here. Which one you want, baby? This one? All right. Oh, it's this one, honey.
Oh, she picked that one.
Yeah, she picked the one first. Non-humans!
Alright, characters who are non-human. That'll be an interesting one. Kind of stepping out of the box a little bit. Alright, if you guys like this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. If you like what we do, subscribe. Leave us any comments you'd like to share in the comment section below. Again, tell us what you thought of our list, and feel free to share your own favorite characters.
We'll see you next time.